All right, we'll get started. Thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate it. Maybe some other people will jump on as we're going, but my name is Andrea Nicolai, and I work with the University of Florida in the Extension. I'm a family and consumer sciences agent and a registered dietitian, and I'm excited that you guys are here tonight for the first session of Med Instead of Meds, and then we have 5 more after this, and it's a really great way of eating. And just in the last little bit of time, it was marked by the U.S. News and World Report as the #1 best diets to follow for ease of following and for your heart healthy lifestyle and things like that. So it's very good thing to do. Okay, so I just wanted to say too, I work with Extension, and so we're federally and state and locally funded, and we're in all of the counties in Florida. And so my job is to extend the knowledge of the University of Florida to the county and then also to all of you. So thank you again for coming, and let's get started. Okay. So fun fact. So 2/3, that is the portion of chronic disease such as diabetes and heart disease that can be prevented by lifestyle changes, specifically diet and exercise. So it's a pretty cool thing that we can do that. So research has shown the connection between lifestyle and chronic disease such as diabetes and heart disease for a long time, but it also provided some insight into the ways to move people in the right direction for making lifestyle changes. And however, we still see the number of people with chronic disease rising. So our goal is to help people start eating and moving in a way that can help prevent chronic disease. So I think this might describe you, but a lot of the people, I teach classes, that's what I do. And a lot of people, I think, just kind of feel stuck. They feel that eating healthy is too hard. Like, people are confused about how to eat healthy, and people are concerned that healthy eating is too expensive. And these are all relevant concerns. So also some other reasons why people don't necessarily eat healthier. It doesn't taste good. They say, I don't really have time. And I don't have culinary skills. So culinary literacy, so that's the ability to know how to cook something and do things in the kitchen, is at an all-time low. And then people largely make food decisions based on taste. So if you don't think that it's going to taste good, that really eliminates that. So for all these reasons, people feel stuck, and it doesn't have to be that difficult. So considering all the above reasons why people feel stuck when it comes to healthy eating, all the available research related to healthy eating, we are going to break down what you should be eating in just the next couple of the slides. So just to kind of show you, it doesn't have to be that hard or complicated. So I just want you to eat this, and then eat this, and eat a lot of this, and then eat this, and eat some of this, but mostly eat this. So not complicated at all. So it doesn't have to be hard or daunting, and it can be really delicious too. So we're going to explore more of that. And that's really what this class is. And then let's talk about whether we want to use pans versus pills. So we have options in how to approach chronic disease and control it in our society. So it's kind of like we can do one or the other, or sometimes some conditions need pills for sure. But the other option is, remember at the second slide, it was just we can prevent 2/3 by our lifestyle. So thinking of, using the Med Instead of Meds, that kind of way of eating instead of pills. And research shows that eating a Mediterranean style eating pattern is highly effective in preventing and controlling chronic disease. So furthermore, it's not only healthy, but it's delicious too. So got lots of good things in store. Okay, so what is the Mediterranean way? So what exactly is this? So it's a pattern that incorporates the basics of healthy eating that were traditionally practiced in countries that border the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so that's where it's traditionally from. This eating pattern is based on how people historically ate in the Mediterranean region, and it's not necessarily reflective of how people in the Mediterranean currently eat. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. And then following a traditional Mediterranean style eating pattern has been shown to promote health and decrease the risk of many chronic diseases. So there's these different components of eating the Mediterranean way. And these are the key things just that we'll talk about throughout all the lessons then. Going specifically into each one on the different lessons because there's really some cool fun facts. So eating lots and lots of fruits and vegetables. So that's the number one circle right there. And so that's the core of eating the Mediterranean way. It's eating just a lot of fruits and vegetables. And then in the next circle, you see the whole grains. So trying to make most or all of your grains whole. We can talk about that too. So eating beans and legumes. So making these plant based proteins your go-to. Those would be good. And then eating fish and seafood at least 2 to 3 times a week while decreasing the amount of red meat that you're eating. So maybe when you usually have a steak, maybe if you could make it a tuna steak instead. And eating nuts and seeds. So that would be an excellent snack to have and then incorporating it in your meals. So they're high in fat, but most of the fat is healthy. And because nuts and seeds, they're high in calories, they should not be eaten in large amounts. Just like generally you want to aim for like about a handful a day. So for best nutrition, trying to avoid the candy ones and the honey ones and the heavily salted ones. And then replacing solid fats like butter, lard, bacon grease, those things with healthy fats, particularly olive oil. And using herbs and spices instead of salt to flavor foods and drinking red wine in moderation. And that's optional. So it also recognizes the importance of these three things. So physical activity, we know that's like a part of the Mediterranean lifestyle. And then enjoying meals, so including sharing meals with family and friends, and then limiting the amount of sugar, particularly from sugar sweetened beverages and added sugars in grain based desserts and other processed foods. So the added sugar is the one we want to stay away from if we can. Okay, so we got those. So then, just like you might be thinking, okay, a diet, I am on the belief that diets, they don't work. Most people who go on a diet, they end up gaining more weight than they ended up losing. So it's just trying to do something that you can do for the rest of your life and have it a way that can help you in multiple ways is what I'm going for. And so where does the Mediterranean way stand on these things? So it's like we know in research that certain things are good for us. And some diets, they eliminate different food categories and that we have known are good for you. So you're kind of like, okay, dang. But one way to know then if a diet might be a good one would be to see where it stands on the stuff we know is good. So the Mediterranean way, it promotes the following superfoods, right? So the fruits and vegetables, we got nuts and seeds, whole grains, the olive oil and other plant-based oils. So that would be like soybean oil, canola oil, walnut oil, avocado oil, all those. The beans and the legumes, we're good with that. Fish and seafood. And the Mediterranean way limits the following foods that we know these are associated with higher rate of chronic disease and obesity. So we know sugar. So it's kind of a lower sugar way of eating. And the red and processed meats. So it's low in those things. Solid fats, low in saturated fat. So solid fats mean it's saturated. We'll talk about that. But highly processed foods, it's low in the processed and convenience foods. So these things, it gets the check mark on eating all the things we know are good and then limiting the ones that we know we shouldn't be eating. So, just picking up even a couple things from this can really help. So one thing that I really come to understand a lot better, and I don't think I understood it that well before, is eating the Mediterranean way is not a flavor profile. So sometimes you just think that, okay, so Mediterranean, and you think of kind of like a gyro or maybe spaghetti and meatballs or let's see, what do you guys think of? It would be those type of things, but it's not just those things. You know how we just talked about those different circles and how those things are the key. So it's based on how people historically ate in that region, and it's not necessarily reflective on how they're currently eating. Okay, so Mediterranean dishes, they can fit in any flavor profile. So you can do Italian, you can do Greek, Indian, Mexican, Southern, or simply delicious. So it's really defined by the components that make up what you're eating. So, if you had like tacos, right? If you're having a high amount of fruits and vegetables, and then low in saturated fats, and maybe you're having fish tacos, right? So you'd be getting that, not so much red meat, or you're having chicken tacos. Um, and then you would have, maybe you could sprinkle, I guess, for dessert, you could have fruit and nuts or something like that. So that would just be an idea of a way that you could do it in a Mexican version. Okay, so just keeping that in mind then. So eating the Mediterranean way, like if you're eating at a restaurant that's called Mediterranean, is not necessarily consistent with eating the Mediterranean way. So it's defined by the components. So you could definitely get something at a Mediterranean restaurant that would be eating the Mediterranean way, but you could also choose other things that aren't so much like eating the Mediterranean way. So if you think of spaghetti and meatballs, so that's like what you might think of typical Italian food. It has high in white flour, and we're going for whole grains, and then it has red meat too. So maybe we would want to substitute those. And then meat kebabs. So that's a typical Greek food. It's high in red meat. And then pizza, high in white flour and cheese. And we could modify both of these to make them more consistent with the Mediterranean way, but they're not necessarily that now. Okay, this is also not what we're talking about. So it's not about taking one component of the diet, such as olive oil, and adding it to foods that are consistent with the Mediterranean way of eating. So if you just take something and add olive oil to it, it does not make it healthy then. And I think sometimes we get taken a little bit by that, when we say like the organic cookie, and you're like, oh, well, then it's healthy. So just keep it in mind, what the food actually is to start with. So cook and eat real food. It's cooking and eating real food, trying to enjoy food as close to its natural state as possible. We are learning a lot about processed foods, and it's looking like those can really affect our health. So it's like some processed is good, and we know that, it can make our lifestyle easier, like buying apples that are now cut up. They're more easy to eat and easy to grab. But some things, when they maybe, come in a box and don't really look at all like they started with in nature, we're finding that those things are not so good for us. So trying to cook more when you're seeing the real foods can really help. Don't get hung up on magical ingredients. That's what we were talking about. So moving away from the ideas that it's like, oh, it's just the olive oil, it's gonna pour it on everything, and that'll help. So not like that. And then the magic is really here. It's in the food choices that make up the way of eating Mediterranean. Okay, so these are some ways to visualize eating the Mediterranean way. They're offered two different visual representations of the ways of eating. So on both of them, you can kind of see ECU School of Medicine is in North Carolina. And so they created this food guide pyramid to go with the Mediterranean lifestyle. And then the other one, Old Ways, it's a nonprofit group. They're great. They do a lot of good research. And they're both of them, how you can see the basics is being physically active and enjoying meals with others. And then we move to those things. A lot of them were in the circles, right? So the fruits and vegetables, the whole grains, the nuts and the seeds, and then fish and seafood. So that's important, but making up less of the food that you eat than the fruits and vegetables. And then there's poultry, eggs, cheese, and yogurt. So they're used more sparingly. And then the nuts and the meats and the sweets. Those would be things you would just want to have rarely. Here's another way of looking at it. If you look at the MyPlate, so we used to have the food pyramid, and now we're having the MyPlate as the symbol for the way of eating, right? So this is taking the MyPlate and modifying it slightly to equal the Mediterranean way of eating. So it's pretty much the same. It's just that the MyPlate has half of your plate fruits and vegetables, and this one also does, but just shows the vegetables in a larger portion then, and water, and then it also has the healthy oils, which the other one doesn't. So it's kind of, giving you the idea of what you could choose that would be better for you. All right, so another diet. Has anybody heard of the DASH diet? I'm going to pull up the chat, and if you, okay, I see Jamie, no. Thank you, guys. Okay, so the original DASH diet is a dietary approach to stop hypertension. So it's been around a long time, and they've found that it can really work on people who have the high blood pressure. And this is very much very similar to the Mediterranean way of eating. The DASH diet is not quite as high in the healthy fat as the Mediterranean is, but they're very close. And then it's also the Mediterranean way of eating is very close and recommended actually in the dietary guidelines for Americans. So that's put out by the government every 5 years. And they actually suggested the Mediterranean style pattern as one way of eating healthfully. Okay, so why should you go med? So if I'm trying to convince you, let's look at just a couple of the specific ways. So it's delicious, and it's evidence based. So the photo on the slide, that's actually some roasted vegetables. That's a recipe in this. In that we, it's on the website for med instead of meds. It would be a Mediterranean recipe, and then there's strong evidence. So findings from a variety of studies support the Mediterranean way of eating as a healthy eating pattern that promotes health and decreases the risk of many chronic diseases. So, as you'll see in the following slides, and the Mediterranean way offers one way of eating that can address all types of diet-related chronic disease. So, cancer. So, there's strong compliance to a Mediterranean-style eating pattern associated with reduced overall cancer mortality by 10%, colorectal cancer by 14%, prostate cancer 4%, digestive cancer 56%. And then it also shows a reduced risk of breast cancer and then pancreatic, liver, and head and neck cancer. So those would be, I guess, if you want to lower your risk of cancer, there's evidence behind that. It also, kind of interestingly, it's better than a low-fat diet for weight loss. So they found that, past dietary advice, when we sometimes take away the fat in our diets, we end up adding things that some starches and sugars that are not so good for us. So the idea would be that this way of eating then helps us feel more satisfied, and then also gives us that healthy fat that sometimes, like when we take the fat away, we fill it with something that's not so healthy. So they found that it's diet. Okay, so eating the Mediterranean way, so like that would be that diet in healthy fats, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, low in red meats and processed food is better than a low fat diet for weight loss, especially for overweight or obese individuals. So it's nice to know that. So not only will it help with the chronic diseases and cancer, but it can help with weight loss also. And so this way of eating, there's a lot of emphasis on the healthy fats, and just there's been a low fat craze kind of in our society. So nearly 9 out of 10 people are worried about consuming fat just as much or more than they were 5 years ago. But despite evidence supporting the benefits of unsaturated fat, many people continue to worry about the general consumption of fat. So we actually can abandon that notion that low fat leads to less weight gain. So low fat diets have not worked for weight loss very well, and they didn't increase needed components of a healthy eating pattern. So looking at kind of the overall of what you're eating, thinking about the fruits and the vegetables, the healthy fats, and those healthy fats can really help you feel satisfied. So that's why that's working that way. And then this one, enough. It just by itself would probably be enough to convince me. The Mediterranean way, it protects against cognitive decline by protecting the small blood vessels in the brain. And it's those things that you are eating that really helps. So 40% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease by doing that way, eating that Mediterranean way. And additional research and is looking at other different ways of how it could affect cognitive decline. It's really nice. Also may improve eye health, including decreasing the risk of macular degeneration. Eating that way protects those small blood vessels again. So if you think about the small blood vessels go all over your body, right? And so just wherever they go, that's going to be affecting them. So eye damage associated with aging, and it can lead to compromised eye health and macular degeneration, but eating the Mediterranean way helps protect those small blood vessels behind the eye, so that damage isn't as likely to occur. And so that is a really nice benefit also. And then it decreases the risk of type 2 diabetes. Let me get to that slide again. Okay, so the increase in type 2 diabetes, it's a major health concern, right? About 10% of Americans have diabetes right now. And then we know that 1 out of every 3 Americans has prediabetes. So that would be right before the stage of diabetes. And 80% of those people, 80 to 90%, don't know that they have prediabetes. So it's like a lot of people are walking around with prediabetes, not knowing that there's at a high risk of getting diabetes. And so it's still reversible when it's at prediabetes. And so it's a big concern. So trying to think about, like this could be another way to prevent diabetes. And it's good for diabetes. So you got that message. Pretty much good for everything, which seems kind of like physical activity. That's something. It doesn't seem to have much drawbacks. You're always finding lots of good benefits for it. That or enough sleep, and the way of eating like this would be similar. So eating the Mediterranean way can help manage blood pressure. So that's really nice. And so we know that the number 1 cause of death is heart disease, and high blood pressure is a known risk for that. So eating the Mediterranean way can reduce the high blood pressure, which is great. Can also reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease by as much as 30 to 60%. So that's where most of the research has really been, is we know the Mediterranean way is really good for the heart. And what's good for the heart is also good for the brain, and so on and so on. So it's pretty cool. So eating the Mediterranean way, eating that way reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease. The studies that examine the relationship between eating the Mediterranean way and the reduced risk for cardiovascular disease provide a glimpse at the magnitude for which eating the Mediterranean way contributes to a reduction in cardiovascular disease risk. So one study found that the Mediterranean eating pattern as one of the most effective evidence-based approaches for the prevention of fatal and non-fatal cardiovascular disease complications. And so that is pretty cool that they're saying that adopting the Mediterranean version of the eating is one of the most effective ways to prevent fatal and non-fatal disease. It's not saying, taking this pill is one of the most effective. So it's pretty cool how powerful it is. And then here's where you can get your 60% reduction. So if you can eat 9 or more servings of fruit and vegetables a day, it results in 60% reduction in cardiovascular disease. So the takeaway, a diet high in fruits and vegetable consumption. So the eating pattern based around like those fruits and vegetables, it's really important. And you can definitely do 9 servings. It sounds like a lot sometimes, but if you think about cooked vegetables, a serving, it would be about 1/2 cup. So it's you can get that just by throwing it in some different dishes. And I guess, that's what the other half of this class will be on, is just how you can actually eat that way. So the Mediterranean way, the review then, I'm going to, let me see if I can unmute you guys. Okay, if you'd like to speak up, we don't have that big of a group, or you can write it in the chat. What would you say, do you remember any of these little circles? Like, what are some of the things that are very important for the Mediterranean way? So it's kind of a recap quiz. So what are some food groups that are important, and some different foods? Okay, yeah, Diana, you got that. Eating those fruits and vegetables. Does anyone remember any of the other ones? Yes, nuts and seeds. Way to go, Mike. That would be there too. I wish I could do the circles in a different order, but I think they come up in the same way. So does anybody remember any of the other ones? Yes, you got it. Eating beans and legumes. Fish. Good job. So fish, you're aiming for 2 to 3 times a week. Let's see. So there's something with fats. something with
Healthy
flavoring.
fats, olive oil.
Yes, way to go, Jimmy. Yeah. So olive oil, and then Cheryl, yeah, whole grains. So that's and then there's one more that would be the drinking the what? And that's optional. Red wine. Way to go, Don. And water. Yes. Look at you guys. You already got it. Okay, so these things. And then if you remember some of the things off to the side, what would be important that you also should keep in mind? Like, along with your eating, it's not just eating, but
Exercise.
yes, exercise. Good job. And what else? Does anyone remember the other ones? One of them, way to go, Mike. Yes, enjoying the meal with others, because that, like associated in the eating time, we're all really, really rushed. And then they found that people who eat in this lifestyle, just, physical activity throughout their day and enjoying meals with others, making it kind of an enjoyable time versus like a rush and go, they just tend to have better outcomes. And yes, way to go. Limiting sugar, especially the sugary drinks. Sleep is also important. They haven't added that on here, but I would say yes, we know that affects everything. So in summary, then, what sets the Mediterranean way apart from other eating patterns? So the cool things are that it's simple, right? It's things you can actually find in the store. You don't have to get special prescription or anything or special foods. Delicious, and it's satisfying, which has really helped a lot of people. It uses simple ingredients, simple food preparation, and then using herbs and spices and healthy fats to make it delicious and then satisfying too. Like having those whole grains and vegetables and fruits, nuts and seeds can really help. So, how do you eat the Mediterranean way? So, there's 7 steps. So, what we're going to do then in the next 5 sessions is break these down. But just changing your protein, swapping your fats, eating more vegetables, eating more fruits, snacking on nuts and seeds, and then making your grains whole, and then rethinking your sweets. So that's a fun one too. So during each class, we'll explore 1 to 2 steps of that. And then we'll also talk about Mediterranean flips. So there are ways to transform popular dishes into Mediterranean way dishes. So that'll help you figure out, with foods that you have and you currently like, how could you maybe keep those and flip them to more of the Mediterranean way? Thanks for coming. And so the Mediterranean way will give you practical advice for living every day. So there's just tips, like straightforward. That's what we're going for. Not anything confusing, but how you can incorporate these into your life then. And quick and easy techniques to make going the Mediterranean way easier. So we call them GoMed life hacks. So just trying to throw some of those in there. And then also mindful eating. So the Mediterranean way, eating mindfully. So that's also something, just thinking about, it's kind of like enjoying the meal, right? So it means eating with awareness, awareness of what's on your plate and also the entire eating experience. So mindful eating is being present in that moment and enjoying every aspect of the meal that you're eating. So during the Mediterranean class, we'll explore mindful eating strategies and tools that'll help you make eating the Mediterranean way a part of your life. Has anybody done that activity with a raisin, where you put a raisin in your mouth and you don't chew it, but you kind of go through a lot of steps, closing your eyes and thinking about how it feels and how it tastes, and letting it kind of sit there a little bit and noticing the texture and the firmness? Has everyone done that? It's a really fun activity. If you guys were here in person, I would probably we do that. So just trying to think about that when you're having like a bite of something you really enjoy, taking time to notice how it feels in your mouth, and that can help you feel more satisfied too. So eating the Mediterranean way. So we're also going to have some demos, and we're going to explore the ways of eating through the food demos then, and trying to help, like, you see some good recipe ideas that you could easily make at home. And if you see on the bottom of there, it says medinsteadofmeds.com. So there's a bunch of recipes there, and all the recipes that I'm going to cook for this class are listed there. And what I was thinking is I have a gift certificate, and that maybe if you wanted to take a picture of any of these recipes that you've cooked. So say tonight I'm going to make the two things, right? The chaat and then the almond mushroom burgers. And so if you make them tonight, or if you make them sometime in the next week, if you could snap a picture and then you can either email it to me. If you could email it to me, that'd be great. And I will then enter you into a drawing for the gift card. So we'll do like every recipe that you make gets you a drawing. So if that sounds like a fun plan, I need to convince you guys to make these recipes. So then you'll realize how they taste. So if that's a deal, we'll do it. So here's just a couple ideas of some of the recipes. Thanks, Cheryl. Green beans with lemon zest. Yeah, that one pretty good. Sauteed squash and onions. Oven roasted vegetables. Curried quinoa salad. And then that's what we're making tonight, the mushroom almond burger. And we're also making this one, the fruit chaat. And here's another one that's on the recipe site, banana oatmeal pancakes. Those are also delicious. And so that's what we have today. Okay, so let's think if there's any other housekeeping thing. I did send, I sent you all a survey so you could take that and see where you are on the Mediterranean way right now. And then the idea would be we'll take it after the class and see if anything's changed. So I would love if you take that, if you can find that. And let's see. Does anybody have any questions right now? Otherwise, we'll go cook. You guys okay? Okay, sounds good. All right, so what I'm gonna do then, so keep in mind then the recipe, the taking the pictures. Yes, so we have, one of the classes talks about olive oil. So Diana just asked thoughts of virgin versus avocado oil. Yeah, so both of them would be excellent. And we'll talk more about that, but both of them would have those healthy fats. So either way, whichever flavor you feel like would be better for the dish, either one of those would be great. So how about we take like 3 minutes of a break and let me move my computer over to the kitchen area and then we'll get started. Okay, so I'll meet you back there in just a second. Should be easier. Can you guys see me okay? Do you see it, the kitchen and things like that spotlighted, or do you see something else? It's good. Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay, so I was, when those messages come up, can you see those too then on the screen? Okay, so that's, all right, well, at least everybody can see the chat. Okay, so I was trying to do a couple different screens because sometimes, like, say you guys cook along with me in the next class, if you're not cooking along with me right now, then I can see you in a different screen over here, and I can also see the chat. So that's a benefit, but it's kind of confusing at first. So let's get started if you guys are definitely done by 7:30 or 6:30 if you're Central Time. Thank you guys who came. Okay, so the first thing, we are going to start with the mushroom recipe. Okay. So we're going to toast the almonds and the oats in the dry skillet here, and just until they brown. So I have this cool burner here. So I have just a half cup of oats and a fourth cup of these almonds, right? So I was gonna toast them. It's getting hot, so that's good. Pour those in. Okay, and then the next thing after that, so we'll toast those, and then we'll cook. We'll put this aside in a bowl, and we will add the mushrooms in there, and we will add the mushrooms and the onions in the olive oil, and then cook them until done. So I need a half cup of these onions. Does anyone know the other name for green onions? They're also known as what? Does anyone know? Thanks, Brittany. Our real kitchen. Yeah, scallion. Good job, you guys. Okay, so you just need a half cup. These are some of the biggest scallions I've ever seen. The size of those. They almost look like leeks, don't they? They're big. So you don't have one big chunk of them. I tried to put them so many things on this little counter. Okay, so we're aiming for a half cup of those. Set these just about two. So we got those. Then we will also need, so I can get that ready, parsley. That's optional, but I think let's put it in there. So it's 2 tablespoons chopped herbs, parsley, chives, cilantro. So these things are optional, but we have it growing at the office, so might as well use it. And so did you guys know, so there's flat leaf parsley and then there's curly parsley. And I always used to wonder which one to get when I went to the store. It's like, what's the difference? And so a chef told me once, he said that, the curly leaf one, a lot of people use it for garnishes, but they like the taste of the flat leaf. Most chefs use the flat leaf for actual recipes. So either way, you're good to go, though, I'm sure. And it helps your breath. So that's a good reason to add it. Love to fix my apron. I'm starting to smell the oats. Don't let me forget, right? So a couple of tablespoons. So I don't know if you already did the survey, but 1 tablespoon is equal to about your thumb. So that's if you ever don't have a measuring spoon or something like that. 1 tablespoon is about your thumb, and then the small part is about a teaspoon. So that can help you. I think I need a little bit more. The cool thing too, if you don't have parsley on hand, you can use the tops of celery. It can work. There's the leafy parts of celery. We got that. Starting to smell good. Okay, so we got that we'll be ready. And then I have mushrooms. I already got the sliced ones, but I might just slice them a little bit more. So there's always the question of if you wash mushrooms or not. And the idea would be, yes, to give them a quick rinse. So I just bought these today. And it already looks like they could be ready to be cooked. Makeshift cutting here. Let's get them in a little bit smaller chunks. Okay. I think. Yeah, smells good. So, all right, we're ready. I'm gonna pour that in my bowl here. So then those will be ready when we need them. And we put in the mushrooms, the onions. I don't want to put in the parsley yet, but if we can get the rest. Now we need the olive oil. That I believe is 1 tablespoon. So the 1 tablespoon of the oil. I ended up peeking there. You guys see it okay? Very good. Yeah. But I also spoke a lot or something. Okay. You guys are still with me? Okay, so once that, my trusty directions, I always keep those available. So what we're going to do is we're going to cook these until no moisture remains. And then we're going to add them to the oats and the almonds. And then we'll combine them with the remaining ingredients. So the remaining ingredients then, if we will get all ready, would be, we have everything down to, we need a 1/2 cup of brown rice, 1/3 cup, I got that, the sharp cheddar cheese. I'm looking at that one. Okay, so sharp cheddar cheese, 3 egg whites, and then 2 tablespoons of the chopped herbs, which we have right here. And a 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. So ideally whole wheat if you can find them. I had trouble finding them, so I'm just using that Italian style breadcrumbs that you can find in the store. And so the idea would be to get whole grains when we can, but when we can't, it's still okay. The idea would be the dietary guidelines for Americans, they say try to make at least half your grains whole. So if we can do that, we're good to go. I'll fix my apron next time. Okay. Let's get the brown rice ready. We need a 1/2 cup of that. And I use the minute brown rice, so it made it a lot easier and quicker. But other one works well too. And I think sometimes we get intimidated by making rice. And you can always just drain off extra water if you have extra water. I think that's the main thing. Sometimes people are like, it's not done, or there's too little water, or too much water. It is something that kind of gets complicated, but it's okay. Do you guys have rice maker or a rice cooker? How many of you have a rice cooker? It's kind of nice because it can work with other grains too. So like you want to cook barley or something like that, that can work. Okay, so that's cooking, and then we have the rice. We have that. We have the cheese. All right. Put this one. Take something out. Okay, so we need 3 eggs, right? Diana says she doesn't use it. So, Mike, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you are around and you want to put it in the chat, can you tell us some of the things you've used your rice cooker for other than just rice? Because it really can do a lot of different things. It's just kind of cool. So he sometimes does some fun stuff. Oh, so yeah, using your Instant Pot to make rice, that really works. I say that. All right. I have to show you guys my trick with the bottle. So there's a lot of different ways to separate eggs, like the whites from the yolk, right? You can do it where you would go back and forth with the shell, or there's actually an egg separator. But we're gonna see. Hopefully this should work. See, we got egg number 1. We'll find out in a second, right? Right. So, what is supposed to happen, and sometimes works, we're supposed to be able to suck up the yolk with the bottle. Let's see if we can do it. Woo, we got it! Is that not the coolest thing ever? So let me put this in the bowl. So you can use the yolks at a different time. Okay, so we got egg number 2. I think this would be really fun to do with kids, or if you ever just have a lot of extra time. So we got yolk number 2. And this is a washed water bottle, just so everybody knows. Okay. Egg number 3. Come on, buddy. There we go. So this yolk split. We'll see what happens. Let's see what I can do. All you out there are like, this is why we use an egg separator. All right. My name is start coming soon. When I cracked it, I broke the yolk with my shell. Broke the yolk with the shell. So I guess it works about 2 out of 3 times. Great. Luckily for us, it's not angel food cake, so a little bit is going to be okay. But here's where we're at. So we got a little bit in there, but mostly just whites. Check out the mushrooms. Okay, so while that is finishing up, what I'm going to do is, so I have all these ingredients for this. I'm just going to put the egg whites, put the herbs in with the egg whites. They're all going to the same spot. Do a couple more if we have it. And then we'll get started on the chaat, which chaat means it's an Indian dish, and it means little snack. And there's lots of different recipe variations for it. But the main thing that makes it different and distinct is that it has a sweet potato in with a fruit salad, which it turns out to be delightful. But you have to try it. So this is something that you really have to will have to try and then send a picture to me. So Mike was just saying, if you can't read it on the chat, just Mike, I didn't know that. So he said he's made spaghetti in it with sauce already on it. He's made Job tears, so that's all different whole grain, many other grains. Yeah, so just the many other grains. I didn't really realize that you could use it for other things than rice. I was worried it wouldn't get done, but they work. Then you don't have to watch the whole grains when you cook them. Here's where we are with the mushrooms. It's amazing how it cooks down to just that. I think they're almost ready. But anyway, so in the meantime, we have fruit salad, right? I'm going to move this whiteboard. We'll go on to new cutting board. All right, so I told you I already cut the apple. So we have one apple. Okay. Got that. And then multiple things. We have a sweet potato, right? You guys knew that was the secret ingredient. So I already cooked that. Oh, We'll just dice that up then. And I have 2 bananas. So the nice thing with this is that, the sweet potato is a pretty important ingredient, but you can also do it without the sweet potato, and you can do it with different fruits. Like if you didn't have grapes, you can use strawberries or use blueberries. And kind of the fun thing is the sweet potato. So I just cooked that. I actually cheated and used the microwave. So I don't have a burner right here at work or an oven right by me, so that was the easiest way to do it. And it works. So I peeled it, and then I put that in there. We have the apple and the sweet potato so far. And then I need about a cup of grapes. That's the other thing about this salad is that less measuring has to happen. But it's nice to have a fun ratio. Okay, so let's see about how many I have. I was going to try another trick. Has anybody done the cover trick where you put the grapes in between 2 lids and then you slice it in the middle? Anybody done that? We got a cup here. And I've done it before, but that's the thing about doing it live is that it might not work. Okay, so we have a cover, then the other lid goes. So we got 2 lids, right? And then you put one like this, one like this. We'll put as many as we can in between the lid here. Just then you don't have to cut all the grapes individually. And it works with cherry tomatoes too. So it worked. So maybe that redeems me a little bit. You see, they're all in half. Let's see. I don't know if you can even see it, but they are pretty helpful. I think the main thing is if you have a really lot to do, right? And it would really help you. But man, see, they work. Kind of cool. All right. In the meantime here, I think these are pretty close. It said it would take about 5 to 7 minutes. They're about there. So right now in this fruit salad, we have the sweet potato, the grapes, and the apple. So we also need a mango and bananas. Let's get the bananas in there. And I think mango, and then that's it. And then the lime. So we're squeezing the lime on it, putting a dash of salt, pepper, and then chili powder, which, believe it or not, really good. You ever go to countries in the South, sometimes they'll have salad mango with chili on it, things like that. I don't know, the difference, like sweet and the spicy and the salty all together go really well. Kind of makes it just a different fun fruit salad. They're going in. And I think I'm going to turn this off. And then add this just so it can cool a second. We got that. Stand by on that. And then we'll finish this salad later. We'll move on back to our oatmeal thing. So we're going to add here's what it looks like now. Right? So we got Italian breadcrumbs. I believe that was a half cup. I'm sure. Half cup of those. Half cup of the half cup, and then a half cup brown rice. And then a 1/3 cup sharp cheddar cheese. If you can get the 2%, you get extra points for that. A little bit lower in fat. So we have that, the 3 egg whites, and the herbs. And then salt and pepper to taste. Great. I'm mixing it all together. This see if we have anything we're missing. So we got the almonds, the oats, olive oil, green onions, the mushrooms. So I used 1 pack of mushrooms. You know how they sell them in those 8 ounce? You can either buy them sliced or whole. So that's what I used, is one of those packs. 1 pound, 8 ounce, 8 ounces of those. We got the brown rice, the cheddar cheese, 3 egg whites, the herbs, and then the breadcrumbs, and then salt and pepper. So I use that Italian mix for the breadcrumbs. So I'm guessing that it has a lot of salt. So I probably don't need to add any salt. But I will throw in a little bit of black pepper. All right. Here's what it looks like right now. Oh, that's a good point. You know, just either those white button mushrooms, or you can use the cremini. Either one. And Jamie, you've done it with cherry tomatoes, so you guys are good. Yeah, somebody else too. Pretty cool. Okay. All right, so let's turn this back on. Okay, so we have the patty, or ready to go into patties. So here's what it looks like. You can see it okay. Need some more clear bowls. I'm just gonna make it into some patties. So the nice thing, the egg yolk or egg white will hopefully do its thing then, and that'll help keep it all together. So this is 6, serving 6. You could also do this in a meatball. Could be kind of good. Down there. Right. So I know I don't want to mess with them too much on the pan. So I have to let the egg white settle, cook, excuse me, and then that'll help bind it all together. I think this would also be good if I just dump this in the pan and kind of stir fry it. All right, so we have okay. You can see how kids could enjoy helping with this and get messy. All right, we're almost done. Home stretch. We're gonna cook these until they're at 150. I see how gloves could have been really helpful right here. I grab my thermometer. You know, sometimes this using the thermometer is underrated. I think it really can help you not only know that the food is safe, but you can also know that the food is done and safe. You don't overcook it. So just checking, like fish, for instance, if you know that fish is 145, then you can put it in your fish, and you won't have to keep cooking it just to make sure that it's cooked. 145, it would be safely cooked. That's really good. Okay, so these guys are going. We're going back to the fruit salad. So the only thing we need, so we got lime and then the mango. We'll have one more trick with the mango. We'll see. So there's that big pit right in the middle. There's multiple ways to get in a mango, but oh, little part that's not so good. So what I was gonna show you, if I can. So the one way you could do it is kind of dicing it in there. Then you would take either a spoon or my hands, because I'm doing everything by hand apparently. Just kind of peel the little squares off. The other option, we'll see if it works, would be to take a glass I know I have it somewhere, but I don't see it. So we're just gonna use this one. The idea is then you put it on the lip of the glass, and then the peel just kind of comes off. And then you end up with a half. It'll work mostly. Then you just have just the peel part. Over there, and then I can dice this. I have a little bit of bad part. Not sure why that is. Didn't look like that on the outside, so unsuspecting. Right, and then in here, there's a big pit. You can try to get all this off if you can. It's really delicious. I have a spoon here. And then we'll do a dash of salt, then a 4th teaspoon of the black pepper, and a half teaspoon of red chili powder. I know you guys are wondering about this, but trust me. These are looking good. You see them a little bit? Okay. It's smelling good, so I'm gonna flip. Wish you guys were here in person. Here's what they're looking like. So I probably could have done them a little bit less on that side. All right, so we have chili powder. So here's a half teaspoon of this. And we can do a 4th salt. I'm just gonna do a dash, I think. Salt to taste. And then black pepper. So we have double the amount of red pepper to black pepper. A little bit in there. Really neat because the black pepper and the red pepper are really good for you. Black pepper helps with absorption of different nutrients. Like you might have heard it with turmeric, right? So turmeric would be that anti-inflammatory spice. You could add some of that in there too. So here's our salad. So this is done. Oh, just what did I miss? The lime. In my little thing here. So many smells. I'm gonna make it. Okay, now we have it together. So something about that lime with the sweetness of the fruit and the sweet potato and the chili powder, this goes pretty well. A little dish here. You see it okay? So you can see how this could be easily, you could add like strawberries or blueberries, whatever fruit you have, and use the lime kind of idea with the chili powder. So here's our little sample fruit. Then, on the cooking shows, they always seem to have this like clear space, and then they'll show the thing. So we'll work on that for future session. Ooh, yep. Okay, let's see what temperature they are at. Oh, 168. So I'm above 150. That was the fattest one. Yep, 152. Okay. Those are good to go. They smell good. Kind of got a little thing there. It's a little bit hard because I'm looking at my phone, so I don't know how well you can see it, but I wish we were here to try. So then you could just do ketchup and mustard if you wanted. Just pretend it's a burger, but it tastes really good by itself. Actually, let me try it for you. The cool thing is there's lots of different textures. You know, you get the herbs really come through, which is nice. So it's not really bland. And then it has a little bit of like that almond in there and the mushrooms. So did you know mushrooms are a good meat substitute? Because they have that similar texture to meat. So just something you can always use, like if you're making sloppy joes or I guess even hamburger or tacos, you can dice up mushrooms really small and add them in, and that'll give that same, it has that same texture as the meat does and absorbs all the flavor. It's really good too. Yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, definitely. She said more of a homey experience. So this is like the real, like the egg yolk doesn't work, right? Okay, so does anybody have any questions? I think we're done for today, and then I'll get to see you in, I think June 1st is our next one. So it's right around the corner, but yeah, thank you guys a lot for coming. Does anybody have any questions? I'll watch the chat if you have anything. Otherwise, if you can do the survey thing so you know where you're at now, and then then maybe you guys can cook with me next time. That'll be good. And thanks. Brittany, thanks. Good deal. She said she's going to make them for us. What I should do is show the pictures that you guys send. Be inspirational. Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys have a really good night, and thank you. I know it's a tough time to get on, so thank you for making some space in your day. And we will hopefully see you soon. Bye, you guys.